This story time is how I caught my uncle filling on my cousin, in other terms, his daughter. So when I was 11, my cousin was throwing a party, then afterwards a sleepover. By the way, we're calling her Adrian, and she was turning 13. So the day of the party, me and my other sister were dropped off by my dad, and we were dropped off very early, maybe 5 hours before the party, and that's because he had to go to work, and my uncle didn't mind taking us all together to the party. Plus, we got to help them set up for the party. When we arrived, we went to Adrian's room, and she got her hair done. It looked so good. When we were talking to her, she just seemed so sad. And you know, when you're younger, you can tell when things are off. She seemed bratty, and she would say that she hated her mom and her dad. To me, I'm like, why? She has the perfect life. Fast forward, she throws the party, and when it's all over, we go back to her house for the slumber party. We ate snacks, played games, watched movies till we fell asleep. I'm a light sleeper, and when everyone was asleep, my uncle came in the living room, tapped on Adrian's shoulder, and told her she gotta go to sleep in her bed tonight. Let me know if I should. This is part 2 of how I caught my uncle touching on my cousin, in other terms, his daughter. So early before, I told you guys everyone went to sleep. We were all asleep in the living room floor in front of the TV, and my uncle tapped on Adrian, telling her that she needed to sleep in her bed tonight. I'm a light sleeper, and I was woke the whole time. Adrian was still asleep, so my uncle picked her up and took her to her room. I was confused on why she had to go to sleep in her room because everyone was asleep downstairs. So 15 minutes passed. I'm still waiting there bored. I don't know what came to me, but I was just curious to see if Adrian was up. I mean, she might have been because I would have woke up if I was switched to a new room. I don't know. I just went up. When I got upstairs, I opened the door. Adrian was asleep, but she was completely naked, and my uncle was sitting right next to her, touching on her. I'm out of time. Let me know if I should make a part 3. This is part 3 of how I caught my uncle touching on my cousin, in other terms, his daughter. Like I said, I couldn't sleep, so I went upstairs to see if Adrian was up. When I opened up the door, Adrian was asleep, but she was naked, and my uncle was touching on her. I got scared and was about to run downstairs, but he ran after me, covered up my mouth, and sat me back down in the room. I started crying, and he said if I didn't shut up, he was going to beat me, so I shut right up. In the midst of it all, when he was standing up, I didn't notice before, but he had on no pants. I started sniffling, and the noise I was making had woke Adrian up. She looked at me, then looked at herself and saw that she had on no clothes. She jumped back and immediately wrapped herself up in a blanket. I started crying again, and my uncle said, "If you don't shut up, girl, I'm going to smack you." Then Adrian yelled at him and said, "Don't hurt her." And immediately, he popped her and said, "What I tell you about talking back?" And from there, Adrian just sat there frozen, touching her face, and I shut right up. This story time is how my toxic boyfriend had got me jumped by his ex-girlfriend, but he's not my ex-boyfriend after everything he put me through. Also, we're calling him Marquand. So, back in 2017 is when me and Marquand started talking. He recently just got a relationship 1 month before he started talking to me. Me, on the other hand, he was my first boyfriend. I'd always ask him if he still had feelings for her, but he always said that he didn't and that she cheated on him, which is why they split. I felt bad for him and wanted to comfort him through the time, but what he didn't tell me is that he was still talking to her behind my back. I wasn't the type of girl to go through phones, but I started to get suspicious. He'd always accuse me of cheating and was very insecure. I used to think he only felt that way because his past relationship. But fast forward 7 months into a relationship, I get a random text message asking if I knew Marquand had a girlfriend. And I was like, I am his girlfriend. And the never responds, me and Marquand have been together for 3 years. After this, it gets real bad. Y'all let me know if y'all want a part 2. This is part 2 of how my toxic boyfriend had got me jumped by his ex-girlfriend. So I get a random text message and I'm going back and forth with the number and it tells me that they had been with my boyfriend Marquand for 3 years. I'm like, hold up, who are you? And she told me her name was Janaya and she sent pictures of her and Marquand together. I was just so upset and I was like, wow. Then I text her, I didn't even know that she existed. Now I'm guessing that she took that to offense and she was like, what hoe? You're a nobody. And me, I'm trying not to start with her, but she's literally disrespecting me for no reason. And we was going at it, but I had to ignore her. The next day, I pull up to Marquand and I asked him, who was that? He was like, that's my ex. I don't know how she got your number. Just stuttering. I could just tell he was lying. I couldn't believe him. So I took my things from his place and I was trying to leave out. He was like, oh, baby, don't leave. While I was on my way out, there were like 5 girls pulling up to his crib also. This is when I was about to get jumped. This is part 3 of how my toxic boyfriend had got me jumped by his ex-girlfriend. If y'all remember, like I said earlier, there were 5 girls that pulled up to his house. As they were getting closer, I noticed that one of the girls was the same girl that was texting me and how she and Marquand was together for 3 years. I asked him, why is Janiyah here? She gets real defensive, start yelling at me, cursing me out, calling me all types of names. Y'all, literally out of nowhere, Marquand turns into a completely different person. He tells Janiyah, baby, I don't know why she came to my house. It's like she's stalking me. I'm like, what? You was just begging me not to leave. He's like, I don't know what she's talking about. And runs over to Janiyah. And guys, my mind is blown. I start laughing like, wow, you're a joke. And I try to walk off. And Janiyah's just like, what'd you say to my man, ho? I completely ignore her and continue to walk. And before I notice, I'm getting yanked by my hair and girls are stomping on me. It gets worse after this. Should I make it part 4? This is part 4 of how my toxic boyfriend had got me jumped by his ex-girlfriend. So like I said earlier, I walked away from him and out of nowhere my hair gets yanked and I'm literally getting jumped. And before this, I've never been in a fight before because I never had to. I tried to get back at them, but it was 5 girls and little old me. This literally was the worst fight I've ever been in. And Marquand was just sitting there watching the girls jump me. It was so bad. I started crying, asking for help, but he just stood there. The girls took my clothes, my bag, my phone. They actually broke my phone and took the money out of my purse. After the fight was over, I was crying to get up. My lip was busted. I had 2 black eyes. It was hard to scream for help without crying. I couldn't move, so I just laid there in the streets for 20 minutes. Until one of Marquand's neighbors called the police. I was sent to the ambulance and I pressed charges against Marquand and the girls. I was so traumatized about the situation that I ended up getting therapy for it all.
My brother used to be obsessed with Call of Duty, COD 4, when he was like 12 years old. He had the headset and everything. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard someone play COD 4, but it kind of sounds like this. Get him. Get that mother. Go now. Yeah. You missed the fucking guy. God. So it's a super wholesome game, but to annoy my brother, I used to sit next to him and watch him while he played. And one day he was playing with someone who had the username Little Pickle. And at the time I was 10 years old and I really liked that username. I thought it was cute. So I changed all my usernames, AOL, email, Club Penguin, to Little Pickle. And then somehow my dad found out that I did that. And he thought Little Pickle was a really cute name too, so he started calling me that. And my brother for some reason didn't realize or didn't know. But my dad kept calling me Little Pickle for years and then it caught on, so my friends started calling me Little Pickle. When I graduated college, my parents made a sign that said, congratulations, Little Pickle. Then one day last year, my brother was like, it's weird that people call you Little Pickle. And I was like, why is it weird? He was like, I remember there used to be this super creepy kid on COD 4 who only ever talked about his penis and he called it his little pickle. All he talked about was his dick. So now I'm 25 and people still call me Little Pickle. Meanwhile, there's some sketchy video gamer out there also calling his penis a little pickle, so.
Story time of how my boyfriend ended up being my stepdad. So I was dating this kid and me and this kid had like the best relationship. He was 19 and I was 17. And I mean, we were literally always together. And my mom would always call him hot and stuff like that, but you know, I thought that's just what moms do. And I didn't think of it in that type of way. So one day my boyfriend got mad at me. And he was like, I'm gonna F your mom, become your stepdad, and boss you around if you keep up that attitude. And I mean, who would think that he's gonna actually try to do that? And I said, I would like to see you try. But again, we were just in a little argument, so about a month or 2 goes on, and I find messages from my boyfriend to my mom and vice versa. They were like sexting, and I saw things I did not want to see from my mother. So I went to go confront both of them, and I confronted my mom first, and she wouldn't tell me nothing, she just told me to get out of her face. Oh, but my boyfriend told me they have been hooking up. But he told me I was overreacting because it's just my mom. Oh, just wait till you find out what happens next. I'm running out of time, for part 2.
This is why you should be careful what you put in the mail. In 2015, a man was asked by his neighbor to collect his mail while he was gone for a few weeks. A few days later, a large package arrives on his neighbor's front porch. The man can barely lift it, but gets over to his garage where he accidentally drops it and hears something break inside. Hoping his neighbor would think the damage occurred en route, he closes his squeaky garage door and forgets about it. But over the next couple of days, whatever was in that package started to smell so bad that he decides to open it up. Inside were 2 very important finds: his neighbor, who was dead, and a camera that was still recording. The police bring the man in for questioning and show him what was on the camera inside the box. It starts with his neighbor talking to the camera about how excited he is to mail himself home for his YouTube channel. Then, police fast forward to the very end where they see that the neighbor is now sleeping in the box, and then suddenly gets dropped and you hear a crack, and that's his neck breaking. And then you hear a squeaky garage door close.
Story time about how I broke up my best friend and his girlfriend. So it was our sophomore year in high school, and my best friend and I had known each other since we were 8 years old. And I've always had a crush on him. Like, anytime he would get a girlfriend, I would try and break them up. And it would work. Well, our freshman year of high school, he started dating this one girl. Well, when he started dating her, he distanced himself from me because she didn't like how much time we were spending together. So a few months go by and my birthday's coming up. And mind you, within these past few months, we only seen each other like twice. And he had me blocked on all social media. Well, our parents were really good friends because we lived in the same cul-de-sac. So my mom invited him and his parents to my birthday party. So at the end of my party, my friends left and him and his parents stayed. And my parents really didn't care if I drank alcohol, so we had like a whole bottle of vodka to ourselves. So we're in the basement and we're taking shots together. Well, I got him super drunk and he fell asleep. And while he was sleeping, I went on his phone and like for part 2.
Be careful on who you decide to meet up with on a dating app because you might just end up on a date with a narcissist. When I was in Denver, I ended up matching with a really hot 39-year-old who also happened to be a lawyer. I recently called off an engagement, so casually dating other people was kinda in the books for me. Before meeting him, I made sure I took all the usual precautions. We made it very, very clear what our boundaries were and said that there was no expectations. So like either of us could leave after a drink and it would be totally fine. Also, we made sure to FaceTime and he seemed super sweet, totally normal. However, the second we sat down, it seemed like he was on drugs. He would literally talk a million miles an hour about himself and wouldn't let me get a breath in. And the stuff he was bringing up was just odd. Like he even included that he broke off an engagement too. Hold on to that thought. 2 drinks in, this man leans over and says, I've been diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenic disorder, but I didn't want to talk about it over text. Because I don't know a whole lot about those mental disorders, I felt a little uncomfy. I also didn't feel like that was a first date topic. Then he literally starts joking about murdering me and states that he would use my dead body for Face ID to text my friend that I'm safe so the timing is off for the investigation. Like for part 2. Part 2 of going on a date with a narcissist. So I start getting uncomfy and getting ready to leave. He offers to call a car and I say, oh no, it's fine, you've got my drink, I'm just gonna go. And he gets confused and he's like, wait, what's going on here? Are we not going home together? I expressed that I was just tired and I wanted to get back to my hotel so that I could sleep and get on the road in the morning. He could not have been more offended by this and kept trying to make sexual comments to get me to come back to his place. Like, no, that's creeping me out more. So I get into my Uber and I make it home alone. And he texts me, tell Elise I said happy birthday tomorrow. That is my mom's name and it was her birthday tomorrow, but I didn't tell him any of this information over drinks. That's when I realized he had found my Facebook and then he called me. He proceeded to go off and lecture me because he couldn't comprehend why I wouldn't sleep with someone as great as he is. He expressed how much better he is than my ex-fiance, who I never brought up over dinner. This is when he let me know that he did his research on me before even meeting me. And I realized that a lot of the conversations that we had over drinks was him just verifying that I was the same person he found on Facebook. He still contacts me and I don't know what to do or say. Follow for more. So this is how a prank call could lead to a shitty relationship. So this might sound immature, but one day my friend and I thought it'd be funny to make some prank calls, so we called this guy that she knew. The guy we prank called had a really good sense of humor about it, so he decided to keep messaging me after. I really just wanted attention and decided to keep talking to him. And then that's when we FaceTimed. He was so cute and we continued to talk back and forth. But I had to go on vacation with my family for a few days, so we couldn't meet up quite yet. For this trip, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes, but it wasn't long until he started to notice that I wasn't much of a simp for him. This really bothered him, but he ended up going about it all the wrong way. He decided to start making up stories in order to get attention from me. They would be about him or his family, and he would just do it to get me to listen to him more. And me being a dumbass just kind of ignored this red flag and continued on in the relationship. So one day he sent me a message saying some guys had beat him up, even though in a previous picture he showed me he didn't have any bruises. 3 days later, when I was outside of a club, he messaged me that he had a brain bleed which led to a stroke and now he has permanent brain damage. Like for part 2. Part 2, a prank call might lead you to a shitty relationship. I literally stormed out of the club crying my eyes out. Straight up thought my boyfriend had severe brain damage. He told me this was a condition that he was going to have to spend the rest of his life with, and I cried until the morning. Once it got to the next day though, I kind of noticed that he was talking normally, he wasn't in the hospital, so I got really sus about it. So I decided to go ahead and text his mom through my mom's phone just to check in and see how he was doing from her perspective. And she was like, oh, he's fine, it was just a little scare. A little scare? Brain damage is a little scare? He was like, in fact, he's out biking right now. So I just stormed out to go dig some more information. I found out he messaged my best friend telling her not to tell any of his friends about his seizure. So I decided to confront him and called him fuming. And at first he denied everything. He was like, no, it's all true. So I told him I needed a break, and that's when he was like, wait. I Googled some of the symptoms that I was having and that's what showed up. So you used Dr. Google. I just broke it off with him. If you guys have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Insta.
So when I was getting ready for school one day, I picked up some lotion and was going to put it on my face. It looked a little weird, but I figured my mom bought me some new lotion. So when I got to school, everyone was staring at me, but I didn't know why. I see my friend Zion, I asked him, yo, why is everyone staring at me? It might be because of your face. I ain't never seen your face that smooth. My face is smooth? What the heck is he talking about? So I went to the bathroom to see what he was talking about. Woo, my face is smooth. It must be that new lotion. So I went back outside smiling because my face is smooth. All of a sudden, Brayden comes up to me and smacks a piece of paper on my face. Oh, everyone, Desmond's wearing makeup. I didn't know it was makeup. I didn't know. I thought it was lotion. What more do you want from me?